Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, hello and welcome to the Beyond the Summit SEA Southeast Asian Series. This is going to be a best of three tonight up against Kingdom and Execration. I'm Lyrical Dota, joined today by Danny Lee Cass as well as Drop Bear, Corrupt Drop Bear that is, on the stats. How are you doing tonight, Danny? Are you excited about this series?
Very much excited, although I honestly say this might be a very one-sided matchup between Kingdom and Execration. Execration are considered one of the best teams in the Philippines right now. So for Kingdom, it's not good news. They do perform well every now and again, but I think Kingdom has stability issues as a team.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that ends up working out from you, our Southeast Asian expert, considering you're currently residing in Malaysia. Is that correct?
Yes, right
Yeah,
now.
way the heck on over there. I'm currently in Oregon in the United States, and it is very early in the morning at this point in time. But I'm excited about Dota nonetheless, and seeing what we're going to end up seeing here, as we do end up having the Slaughter Band out, as well as the Doom, Night Stalker, and the Queen of Pain into a first pick here for Kingdom. So, in terms of play style, in terms of sort of their confidence going into this, do you think that Kingdom are going to potentially go for some of those sort of somewhat cheesy drafts, or might we end up seeing them just try and play up against Execration here straight up?
They have particular strategies that they feel comfortable running, but as you said, their strategies are considered mostly cheesy as it's they're heroes that aren't really popular. They If it works, it works. If it doesn't, there's really no chance of coming out of the ditch. So Kingdom, they can run strange drafts that can work every now and again, but the success rate of them is not particularly high. They can play standard though, and their standard style of play is generally acceptable. So I think for Kingdom, if they just stick to the standard style of Dota, I think they should be solid. But we also need to see what kind of heroes that they draft. If it is it going to fit their strengths as a team, or are they going to go for something a little bit more countered around what Execration picks?
Yeah, definitely. And time will tell indeed. They did end up getting the first pick here, Kingdom, so they end up taking that Tusk, which always a really strong hero and can fit into a number of different drafts. And honestly, you can sort of play him in kind of whatever role you want to end up doing. I've seen him more and more often being played as a support role, just because there's a couple of stronger offlane heroes that you can sometimes end up running in the position instead. So maybe you end up sort of comboing him in there with an Undying or something else like that. And depending upon which hero you want to end up, I think one of the big reasons that you end up seeing Tusk end up playing in that 4 position is you run a dual off lane, and then Tusk is the hero that can roam into the mid lane and make ganks happen. I think that works really well when it's a Dire Tusk in particular, because there's that very easy path on through there, through the woods, to make sure that you're going to be able to find off a road to the mid lane and maybe take them out, as we do end up seeing the Gyrocopter and the Winter Wyvern picked up.
So we already got a lot of combos coming out for Execration here. Is they've got a lot of AoE burst potential from the Gyro, plus his standard nuking potential. Then you have the Wyvern there to keep everybody in place with the Winter's Curse. So there's already a lot of AoE on the board here for Execration. So their draft is really open. Whereas for Kingdom, what do they want to pick up as their second hero? There are a lot of heroes available that they can decide to pick up now, or they can risk it and hope that the hero does survive later on. I honestly would be. I'm hoping Kingdom actually picks up a Darkseer here and goes for a aggressive dual lane Tusk Darkseer, because that combo together, you can really net some kills in, just because you have the Tusk with the catch, and then you obviously have Ion Shell to dish out quite a bit of damage. And not many dual lanes, and so in some circumstances, even tri lanes can't really handle it, but instead they're going to go back for the Dazzle to have that sustain.
Interesting. You know, also sometimes you do end up seeing teams run an aggro tri-lane with a Tusk Dazzle as a part of that, and then maybe end up picking up something else like an Undying at the later stages, just because you have the combo of being able to snowball into a heal bomb with the Dazzle, which is pretty strong, and it's very relevant. I mean, you take a look at the cooldown is probably the most important thing. It scales exceedingly well for Dazzle, and being able to have one of those healers in a draft is always really important if you want to go aggro tri-lane. Of course, it could just sort of be the more normal role where you end up having the Dazzle. Maybe he sits mid, maybe he ends up sitting top and stacking on up camps, making sure that the carry or the mid laner doesn't end up dying with a grave. But It's kind of an interesting draft so far because you see out of Kingdom a couple of the very defensive supports, or at least heroes with defensive capabilities. Snowball for Tusk is almost as good as an ultimate in terms of the
10
utility
seconds
ends up bringing
remaining.
to the table, and Dazzle also with the Shallow Grave there is always going to make sure that you're going to be able
5
to stay
seconds
alive throughout a
remaining.
team fight. So I really like the draft so far. I think that the Huskar ban makes a lot of sense here also for
Radiant
Execration.
team pick.
Very interesting that they end up banning out the Darkseer themselves, but I guess that now that they've picked up the Tusk and the Dazzle, they might not want to go back for the Darkseer.
Darkseer is banned out.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that they were the ones that banned it
Dire
out.
Oh,
team
yep,
So,
sorry.
yeah, no problem. I said it earlier anyway, so I talk
I'm really
forever.
surprised that it's fine. I'm really surprised they banned it out though. The synergy between Tusk and Darkseer is immense, but I guess maybe it's just maybe they're not comfortable playing the Darkseer as well. You also have to take into consideration we can harp on about how this hero is amazing, but then the team doesn't play the hero in general, so there's just
Right.
no point picking it up. So that might be another
10
reason as to why
seconds
Kingdom doesn't
remaining.
want to go for it. Wind Ranger, very, very solid mid
5
hero
seconds remaining.
for Execration. There's going to be no Slardar though as it's banned out. And if there was a Slardar, then the Wind Ranger's
Reserve
threat would have been
time.
10 times higher just because of the negative armor. They could, if they really want to, if they want to go in the negative armor department, they could go for a Shadow Fiend, go for that dual range core to really do some damage. But you already have a Gyrocopter, and you've got heroes here that need too much farm
Radiant team
to
Mm.
try and go back for something like that. So that maybe they have to go for a off lane that doesn't really require too much farm. Honestly, Clockwork looks really attractive here for Execration, having being very tanky, can sit in the front lines, and also be the setup for the Wind Ranger and the Gyro.
Yeah, definitely. Those sort of heroes there in combination, able to lay on out a nice stun. The one thing, of course, you'd have to be careful about is the Tusk with the Snowball and making sure you don't end up trying to gank when Tusk is around.
Dire
But I
team
still
pick.
think that it could be a really solid pickup there. I kind of like the Bounty Hunter pick as well, going to be able to accelerate that farm. I will also mention that for this little dynamic, picking up the Wind Ranger after taking the Winter Wyvern, it makes a lot of sense. You need to make sure that the other enemy team doesn't end up picking out the Winter Wyvern because it's such a strong counter to your hero. Dazzle is going to be the other one that you need to be careful about because if he ends up getting a defensive weave off on his heroes
10
all across the
seconds
board, they're going
remaining.
to be taking almost no damage from that Wind Ranger. So I think that in
5
response,
seconds
also the
remaining.
Lina, it's a good matchup in the mid there. You're going to be able to be one of the few heroes that can really deal with the
Reserve
Wind
time.
Ranger in lane. And at 6, Lina can kill Wind Ranger, which is not something that often happens in any matchups with her because you do rely a lot upon the couple of last right clicks. If you think about a Queen of Pain there against a Wind Ranger, sometimes you can get it with the Sonic Wave, but Lina functions much the same way. And considering that Quap is already banned out, I really like the Lina pick.
Yeah, I agree with it. They need a strong mid lane that's going to be there to hold the momentum for the rest of the team, as you said. So Lena's very solid. The thing we have to keep an eye on though, it is definitely going to be the Lena Wind Ranger matchup in that mid lane. And this is going to be purely skill based by both sides because whoever gets the momentum first is going to have
10
an
seconds
edge
remaining.
over the opposing mid because Lena is
Radiant
quite
team
immobile
pick.
by herself. So if she does get jumped on by the Wind Ranger plus Bounty Hunter combo, she doesn't really have the best defensive mechanisms outside of potentially landing a Light Strike array. So she can get caught out quite easily. Whereas the catch on Kingdom, they could possibly try and
10
go for maybe a
seconds
Tusk
remaining.
rotation to catch out the Wind Ranger and hopefully finish up with the Lina. But the
5
moment
seconds
that
remaining.
the Wind Run comes out, Wind Ranger's survivability rate will probably increase to about 75%.
Reserve time.
So killing off Wind Ranger will be more difficult than the Lina. So for Execration,
Dire
because
team
they have
down.
this Bounty Hunter pick, expect ganks in that mid lane on Lina to prevent that early 6.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a very important part of this combo. They do end up banning out the Alchemist as the last stage there. I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, I guess that they're thinking
10 seconds remaining.
I, I don't really feel that strongly about Safe Lane Alchemist. Actually, I
5
should
seconds
rephrase that. I
remaining.
feel strongly about Safe Lane Alchemist. I feel that it's bad, and I don't necessarily love it that much.
Reserve
Obviously, the
time.
hero on his own is incredibly potent in terms of what he's able to bring to the
5
table.
seconds
But I
remaining.
really do think that you rely heavily upon those early bounty runes, and if you don't end up getting
Radiant
them, it
team
doesn't
pick.
really make a ton of sense. So we also see the Beastmaster ban out. Clockwork was taken. I like this pick a lot. You were talking about it. I believe you were talking about it for Execration. I could be wrong about that.
Yes, I
But
was.
I think that it makes a lot of sense for Kingdom also. Just ability to say, you know what, this is where the team fight's happening because I'm going to hook onto you, cogs you in, and you're not going to be able to get out. I love the pick. I think it makes a lot of sense for them and probably going to be,
10
that roam
seconds
on into
remaining.
mid lane once he ends up getting 6 to hopefully get a kill on the Wind Ranger with Laguna Blade
5
also.
seconds remaining.
So now that we've got both cores secured on the side of Kingdom,
Reserve
plus their
time.
two supports, they need a safe lane. And I feel like they're going to need a safe lane that needs a little bit of late game potential at least, or if not late game potential, usability, so that if they do team fight, at least the safe lane carry can come in to help. And what options are there available? If you look at Execration, they're lacking quite a bit of disable.
Dire team
Is there a
pick.
chance that Kingdom may potentially go for something like an Ember Spirit, a one of the more mobile carries?
I wouldn't mind that. The other one I was kind of
Oh, so
thinking
banned
about.
out. Sorry,
Uh,
it's banned out. What
oh,
am I?
the other one I was thinking about might be a Slark potentially. It's kind of a interesting game for a Slark just because there are several different ways to be able to, have vision of you with obviously the bounty hunter track. But I do think that, like you mentioned, the
10
lack of
seconds
disable
remaining.
might end up coming back to haunt them slightly. Spirit Breaker also makes the pick a
5
little bit
seconds
less
remaining.
attractive. But I don't necessarily think it would be the worst thing in the world. They go for a Razor as the last pick, which is kind of interesting. They don't have a great way to burst him down. I think this is okay, and also being able to obviously, apply that debuff onto the Wind Ranger and slow her down if she ends up trying to shackle him. I think that's a pretty solid pickup here. I like this.
I'm on the fence with Razor picks, but I think it's also just because I hate the hero in general. I think it's
Absolutely.
just. Uh, uh, okay, so what does a Razor bring to the table? He's great at stealing damage. He's decent at pushing once he gets an Ags. He's decently tanky. He comes online at a relatively okay chance, but
I
I'm not too sure about this Razor pick in this game
I
because it's both ranged cores.
10 seconds remaining.
Right. I agree with you that that's going to be the problem is catching and really
5
holding
seconds
on to it. But I
remaining.
think that's what the clockwork is for. And honestly, I think probably the biggest thing is late game. You need to tank him up. You need to be able to get him enough survivability to last throughout the early salvos of the gyrocopter call down and the rocket barrage. But I really think that if he's able to steal the damage away from a gyrocopter, where else do you get the damage here out of Execration? That to me seems like the strategy here is that they're worried about the late game potential of the gyrocopter just being able to flat cannon everybody down. And if they're able to steal enough of that damage away from the gyrocopter, they're going to be able to get enough of a team fight win out of the rest of their heroes. So to me at least, I think that's the game plan. I don't know if it's going to work. It requires a lot of parts to go right, and as you mentioned, it's really risky because if you don't have that early, good start out of this lineup here from Kingdom, I think that they are going to lose. But to me at least, based upon the picks that we ended up seeing out of Execration, this seems to be what they think is their best chance to win.
Mm. Oh, this Razor. I think this Razor pick, though, honestly, it's going to be completely all on Crash Bandicoot as well as Yomu Kompaku. The two heroes that are going to help the Razor keep his targets in place. I think that's the biggest thing. I didn't really touch on to that. Uh, Kingdom has some decent catch on their enemies, I think, which is going to be the biggest thing when it comes to getting the static link. So they have to make sure that they can keep Ponyo on his target. So I think a lot of pressure on the Kingdom on making sure that this Razor does get the stolen damage. Aside from that, though, for Execration, could you say this is probably one of the most cookie cutter drafts?
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
such so. I would agree. And obviously the bounty hunter is going to help accelerate the gyrocopter in those items. So I'll try and oh my god, my camera is going all kinds of crazy because of the pause. I'll do a quick little introduction for Execration since you seem to actually have the pronunciations very well done up on the top side. We have Nando who's going to be playing on the gyrocopter off to the side here. Shanks is going to be your Wind Ranger. RR on the bounty hunter. Lemerick is going to be on the Winter Wyvern. And last but not least, heading over towards the mid lane is BYB on that Spirit Breaker.
So Kingdom on the dire side for today, we've got Yomu Kompaku playing on our Tusk, Crash Bandicoot on our Clockwork, Ponyo playing on the Razor, Lee Honky playing on our Lena, and finally, in the backside of everything, we've got Fruits playing on the Dazzle. So it looks like Kingdom going to go for that 5-man rotation into the jungle. They could potentially catch something if Nando wanders a little bit further, but he's just sticking around at the moment. No boots or anything.
It's keeping an eye as this disconnecting from the game. This is getting somewhat dicey. People are a little bit upset about the current situation. That's actually his own team. I love to see a little bit of all chat. This is something that I'm used to seeing in NA Dota, and it's comforting to see that it also transcends boundaries into the Southeast Asian servers as well. So that's pretty cool. Oh my god, jeez. So let's see. The early wards are going to be able to block this off, but it looks like Kingdom are in a good position to fight here.
Oh, they could snowball in. Who do they want to jump onto? Wyvern? They're going to go straight into the Wyvern. So pull into Wyvern, going to give away first blood unless they don't catch. They actually push him out. Oh, they get out with the Arctic Fan. One more right click. It's going to be there. So close, Ponyo. The range is there. Razor steals a very tasty 35 damage, but all in all, first blood, they didn't even put wards down. So it looked like it was just more or less a hunting party rather than a warding party.
Well, the interesting thing there also is that we saw a salve used. I'm not sure whose salve that was, but they really didn't need to do that. So it looks like a little bit of a mismanagement there potentially. And also, Bounty Hunter is going to be up on the high ground here, keeping an eye on the courier, which is going to be moving on over towards the mid lane as we end up seeing Ponyo just pick on up another little piece of something there and head on back to base. So not going to be able to get the courier snipe this time around, but very interesting start to that little engagement as we do end up seeing still off to the side the Dazzle as well as the Tusk looking to be in an aggro tri-lane with the Clockwork, or maybe just a roaming combo to be able to find a couple of kills here.
There is quite a bit of burst potential actually coming out from the Dazzle as well as the Tusk because you have the heal bomb. So obviously more targets means that you're going to be doing extra damage with the Shadow Wave. So because Nando's here by himself, he is actually in a really bad spot right now as these three heroes can simply converge, snowball, power cogs, and then heal bomb, and that's it. The gyrocopter's probably dead. There's just no way that he's going to survive. And rocket barrage at this point, splitting between three heroes? No, thank you.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind on top of just this is that, and I think this kind of harkens back to the Razor pick again, and why maybe they ended up wanting to go for this one as opposed to wanting to go for something else. They wanted a hero who is going to be capable of dealing with the having some type of late game sustainability, but also can be in the lane alone in the early stages. So that way the support combo can run around the map and make stuff happen. And I think that, you saw there the PL was already banned out. The Gyrocopter was already taken. The Ember Spirit was gone. There aren't too many other heroes in the safe lane that are going to be able to sustain throughout it. And what are you left with there? Maybe you end up throwing a Viper or a Queen of Pain who was already banned out. The Viper, I feel like, doesn't sustain as well against a Gyrocopter as a Razor does. So considering they went for that early draft of wanting to go for the Dazzle and the Tusk in a roaming support, which we're kind of seeing here, at least that's what it seems like so far. To me, this seems like the best answer that they had left, given the a lot of bans that Execration were throwing their way.
So we'll have to see how Ponyo does manage to handle the Razor, because we obviously being level 1, we're not going to be seeing anything happen as of yet. We're just going to have to see how the lanes happen. That's really the story here. Who wins their lanes, who doesn't win their lane, who manages to come back, who roams, who comes back, or who falls off. And I think the bigger picture here is that for Execration, because they're running a bounty hunter, they need to make this work. So this is going to be based off of courier snipes, and getting the kill on the Lina, I think, which is going to be huge. But with the sentry ward already in the mid lane, it'll be quite difficult to completely catch out the Lina unless they maybe have the Wind Ranger be the initiator rather than the bounty hunter, which won't happen up until maybe level 2 or 3 once they actually get points into the shackle shot.
Absolutely. Well, time will tell. We're just sitting here waiting for the last person to load on in. I'm doing close-ups of all of the different heroes all across the map. I have to say the Wind Ranger set is kind of a weird one on Shanks right now. He's got like a little sort of bird set going on, but it looks like we're going to be getting back into the game, and I can stop looking at sets and start talking about Dota. Here with Danny on the mic as well, and everything looking good so far as we end up getting a bit of a trade. Now, in this mid lane, actually, we're going to get one more right-click off here, and a good amount of damage coming out from the Winter Wyvern as well. Lina not super tanky in this, and looks to potentially be going down. One more right-click is going to do it, as we also have a kill down in the bottom lane. Clockwork able to pick off the Gyrocopter with that snowball into the heal bomb. Quick kills in this one.
And this is going to be a pretty exciting game, as I'm expecting both teams to be extremely aggressive in their movements, as Kingdom really loves to do this, and because they've this sort of draft, having a Tusk, you can go for all sorts of snowball shenanigans, as we're seeing right now. Poor Nando. I think we're going to go to Nando's to have a bit of a chicken sandwich here, buddy. This is, lunch is on Kingdom here.
Oh my goodness. Tusk ends up getting that kill, and 1-3 is so far the score, and they're keeping this Razor pretty tanky right here. Bounty Hunter is going to start initiating on him a little bit. The Orb of Venom doing a decent amount of damage. Charge on forward. That's going to slow him down a bit more. With the body blocks abound, he might be in a little bit of trouble, but is hitting for 100 and that bash is going to be enough. 17%. Oh, it's worth it every time.
This early on as well, the damage is huge just from getting a level 2 bash. So this is pretty sad actually for Kingdom to lose their Razor in this top lane. But this is what you get when you're rotating your supports aggressively. You're not going to have anyone there to protect your safe lane. And you said Razor was supposed to be the one to survive in the safe lane by himself. He's doing okay, but the thing is with Razor, he has no escape mechanism. You can drain damage, but there are situations like, as we saw just now, where draining damage isn't enough.
Definitely, and you talked about there that extra little bit of, damage based off of the moon speed that you end up getting on the Spirit Breaker. It was really unfortunate because I think that if he doesn't end up getting that bash, maybe, just maybe, Razor's able to walk away from that one and possibly heal back up as he gets under the tower. It's a tough one, but unfortunately, they weren't able to make that happen. And that is the main reason they ended up drafting this hero. We actually end up seeing the Tusk run into the Winter Wyvern with the haste rune already up. They realize that something's going on, and Gyrocopter, not going to be taken for the fool, is just going to back on out of there, say, you know what, we're going to leave it alone for now. We don't want to get a little bit too feisty.
Yeah, so now that the top lane is going to be solo here for the Razor, he'll have a decent time up against the Spirit Breaker, whereas this tri-lane down bottom, very rarely do you ever see a tri-lane with the clockwork. Because we know how level dependent this hero is, you want that level 6 as soon as possible. The Kingdom to run this aggressive tri-lane, is this really benefiting the clockwork? Do you think they should start rotating out these supports? Because Crash Bandicoot's level 3.
Does look like Razor might be in a little bit of trouble down here. The bash ends up connecting. He does have the potential to try and TP away maybe, but it looks like he's going to get rained down a little bit. Oh, that creep block! Oh, the melee creep. That was crazy. That is some RNG going their way. Last time it didn't end up going their way. That's crazy.
You have to promote that creep. He saved a life. He saved a life today. Unless Ponyo stays around a little bit too long, then he might regret it. So yeah, I don't think you want to go for the promotion yet, but for the moment it looks like RR just going to scout things out. They know the Dazzle's here, so Ponyo is not going to be that much easier because the Shallow Grave is available.
Oh, they actually have fought the Winter Wyvern down here in the bottom lane, and they're going to bring the Snowball in. The catch also, the cogs are going to be down in enough, and I think that this is going to be able to kill her on off. Lots of damage coming out very swiftly, and unfortunately, while Gyrocopter can fight early, it's difficult to fight into two heroes as they share the damage from that rocket barrage. So I think that we get your answer a little bit as Dazzle starts to move around a little bit more often. He's stacking up camps in the jungle while simultaneously roaming around and sort of shadowing the bounty hunter wherever he ends up being to make sure that that lane is going to be safe. So I think that Fruits is playing this just about as well as you can. That being said, he is currently level 3. Oh, bounty hunter going on in for the courier snipe is going to get it on the backside. I don't think that they're actually going to be able to find this because we do have the sentry ward in the area, and it looks like they're going to be able to dodge it away. Nicely done there as bounty hunter does end up getting spotted out and not going to be able to find the kill. I think they're going to jump for it the other way. Is almost going to go down. Well, we also have a Shackle in the mid lane. Are going to be able to get the courier on top of that, taking on out the Lina. I think maybe they do end up getting the Shallow Grave, keeping her alive a little bit longer, but that's going to be the Shuriken cost coming in. Shanks is going to fall. So 2 dead currently for Exhortation, as well as the Lina getting taken out, and Clockwork picking up the kill on the Wind Rangers. Pretty well done with the rotation.
And Bounty Hunter, he actually wants to kill here onto Fruits, and this is a poor Dazzle that really doesn't have too much, but he might win this man fight regardless. So Fruits gonna man fight him, and that's gonna be the end of the bounty. Charge coming through. Also in the fight, poor bounty, well, not really poor Bounty Hunter. The poor courier on the side of Kingdom got sniped by the Bounty Hunter as everything happened too. So they lose 2 heroes. They get a kill plus a courier.
There wasn't anything on it though, so I think that's pretty good.
It's pretty good, but the thing is, you also have to remember this early on, heroes are not going to be getting their items unless they go back to Fountain. So it means that if you think about it, if you're nowhere near the secret shop, boots are going to be coming a little bit slower. TPs probably won't be coming through. So it's a tiny win if you think about the courier, but losing heroes like that, yeah, not really.
Yeah, it's frustrating, definitely. And we'll see how that ends up playing out. Maybe it ends up translating into more kills for the Wind Ranger here on the Lina. That's going to be the big thing to keep an eye on, is they're going to be able to sort of take advantage of that courier not being on the map. And Lina does not have the boots on her, as you mentioned, so a little bit scary. We do have a hasted on a bounty hunter. Moving on into lane, is going to be able to find on out the Clockwork here. They end up initiating with the Arctic Burn as well as the Splinter Blast. Battery Assault has been committed, but it looks like he's probably going to go down Dazzle in the area. Never mind. It is going to be a turnaround. They end up having the Snowball here on top of the bounty hunter. He goes down. Looks like Clockwork is going to survive as the rocket barrage shared between the Dazzle and the Tusk is not going to be enough to be lethal. So another bounty hunter kill. Having a little bit of trouble at the start of this one just because of the really good rotations that we've been seeing by Kingdom.
Yeah, and this is the advantage for Kingdom. If you keep on doing these sort of rotations, constantly reinforcing, counterplaying, because they have so many defensive mechanisms, they're going to save heroes and they're going to get kills in the process. So for Kingdom, they're playing very well during the early game, whereas for Execration, I think to a certain degree they're being a little bit passive with how they're playing their supports. They've got a great defensive support in the Wyvern, but Lumic hasn't really been going around the map or anything. He's been mid, he's
Oh.
been bottom. Poor Lena gets shot to hell as she is by herself.
Meanwhile, back in the bottom lane, they're going to be able to take out this gyrocopter yet again. Another heal bomb coming in from the Dazzle. Clockworking the last kill with the battery assault there. We're going to chase on down this Winter Wyvern with the poison touch. Doesn't have level 6 yet on the Clockwork. Thankfully, that one didn't end up latching. And it looks like Crash Bandicoot's going to be able to get out of here. Maybe not, though, as Fruits ends up getting dropped a little bit low. They toss out the cogs, connects onto the Spirit Breaker as well as the Wind Ranger body blocks abound. It looks like Bounty Hunter here going to be able to take on out Crash Bandicoot as Dazzle already does fall. Does he survive through this Shuriken toss? And I think he does end up going down there. Spirit Breaker getting the last hit, and Lena can only look on in dismay as the rest of her team down here in the bottom lane ended up getting killed, but 5 heroes rotating for that.
I think they had to do it though. They lost a lot of heroes during the early phase already, and getting those 2 kills, it's quite big for Execration. And you lost your gyrocopter again.
Yeah.
So Nando's probably had one of the worst starts I've seen in a carry. He's got some CS, which is fine, but you've died 3 times 8 minutes into the game. That's almost a death every 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So he's not really spending too much time in this lane. They're going to try and go for a jump here onto Lee Honky yet again, but the snowball's there to keep him alive, and they're going to group up, get connected onto both the Gooners there. They finish up the space countdown. Nando, he wants revenge. Can he get Lee Honky? He will finish him off with Shanks, and now Yomu Kompaku Tusk is going to go down, and Fruits, he is going to melt too. So 3 heroes dead for Kingdom. They wanted to put some more pressure in that bottom lane, but they get surprised as Execration. They bring everybody into that bottom lane, or they really hung around from the previous fight.
Yeah, they definitely did. So really good fight there for Execration. Unfortunately there, he had 2 seconds before he died. The Dazzle was almost going to be able to survive. I think the one thing to keep in mind, the Dazzle Shallow Grave 60-second cooldown at level 1. This Dazzle ended up going for an early point in Poison Touch, which is something that we've seen more often recently as we has a charge up here in the top lane, but I don't know if he's going to be able to find any kill here. I think this is just to get back to the lane faster and apply a little bit of harassment. But what I was talking about there with Dazzle is sometimes you end up seeing Dazzles just go for more of the not even taking that skill at all and getting early points in Graves, so that way the cooldown gets a little bit lower, and then you can save people more often, because it wasn't off cooldown to save Lena, as we have Ponyo drop pretty low, so that's going to be another strike, a lot of damage, and they both end up being able to get out of here. I think maybe we end up getting kill on the Bounty Hunter. That was a track kill. Oh, the shards are really good. That's going to be enough to be able to get this kill on the Bounty Hunter, and now Tusk just ends up backing out one more time. Charge on top of him. The Wind Run is in the middle of there, and I think that she gets out this time. Light Strike Array going to connect on a BKB, and they also have the Laguna Blade out on top of him, but there's the Splinter Blast coming around to slow everybody down, and again, 4 heroes have been up in this top lane, as we did end up having Wind Ranger just run away from another charge onto Lena, cancels it at the last second, baiting out, and Fruits is going to go down. Winter Wyvern gets that kill with the Splinter Blast. Oh, goodness.
3 points in the Splinter Blast is lethal 10 minutes into the game. That's a whole chunk. That's 260 damage if you don't take into consideration magical resistance. And poor Lumic, he's essentially delaying the inevitable. Free kill to Lee Honky, but just to support Winter Wyvern. Execration, they've really stepped up their game when it comes to aggression. And it's really paid off with how they have these rotations, getting those slow pickoffs, and Kingdom sort of falling prey to this as they're also coming into the fights one by one. And Execration wants this to happen if you're up against Kingdom. You want them to come in one by one, you want to pick them off, or you want to peel them off slowly as they come in. So I think for Kingdom, small misplays coming out, but I think they're going to catch on to this eventually and they should be fine. Crash Bandicoot going to be the target, it seems. They won't jump onto him as of yet, but the charge is still going to continue on.
Yeah, and keeping him just at bay for the time being. Track is on top of them, and this is the other thing that we didn't really talk about a ton, is that they've been able to get several track kills, and this has really translated into a big early game advantage. 2,000 gold roughly in the lead, as opposed to you know, the side of Kingdom, who hasn't been able to get the advantage, even though they have the same amount of kills. And relatively speaking, CS wise, they're pretty even. It's just that track gold advantage that you're getting, and it's going to be huge as this game continues on. It looks like they're going to be able to find the Razor one more time here. Winter Wyvern does not quite have level 6, but can potentially come on in here and try and make something happen. They're waiting for the rotation from the Gyrocopter as well as the Bounty Hunter, and I think that just about now they're going to be ready to go on in here, maybe waiting for their opportunity. Bounty Hunter's in the woods. They're kind of waiting here. I
Does
don't know.
Ponyo know they're here? He may have clipped a vision of the
Radiant's
Wyvern.
bottom tower
He
is under
may
attack.
have, but they're gonna go into the mid lane instead. They may run into Lee Honky instead. Killing off the Lina here would be key, but instead, now they see Ponyo. Now they're gonna just run back with the Spirit Breaker for now. They're gonna wait for the rest of the team to come in, and they're all converging. We're gonna be seeing a Razor Sandwich very shortly. Never mind, they see other heroes. They're gonna change target straight onto the Wyvern. Wyvern goes down immediately, and now we have the Bounty Hunter. He's being jumped on by 2 heroes, but he's relatively healthy and quick. And Lee Honky, he gets a kill in the meantime. Also gonna get graved up, shackled in place. Gonna be kept there, but the rest of his teammate Shanks, he wants the kill. Gonna be able to get out with the haste read and a win run to make sure on the hook shot. Oh, it's so close, just off a hair.
That was really close right there. The other thing that I felt like was so weird in that engagement, the Spirit Breaker just sat there and let them soak up a ton of damage. He wasn't really going to be able to run away exceedingly well, as we do have Bounty Hunter continuing to just try and dodge away from ganks here. But it did feel like there was at least an opportunity. Oh, he's going to end up getting the Shuriken bounce, I think. There's it going to connect, and that's going to be able to kill off Lee Honky. What a play. Dazzle ends up getting the return kill, but that's definitely worth it right there. So I think that the only reason that Wind Ranger ends up even getting that low is because of all the damage that Razor stole. I think it was like around 160 damage. It's pretty ridiculous.
That's the thing when you go up against a Razor. If you're tethered, you have to decide, do you want to continue on fighting or do you have to retreat up until that tether breaks? So it's a fact that it's taken into consideration, and for Razor it's nice, although unfortunately the cooldown on the spell is relatively long, 26 seconds. If you just get maybe a tap link, you just connect onto it and it immediately breaks, you technically wasted the spell. But 13 minutes in, we're sitting on a very, very aggressive score, 13 to 15, lots of kills across the board for both teams, actually more than 2 kills per minute, which is quite nice. Item progression wise, there is a smoke down bottom, no one's down there though. Mech is almost done on the bounty hunter, so there's going to be the sustain on the side of Execration, whereas for Kingdom, Mech is done on Ponyo, so there's no mech advantage really for Kingdom unless they want to make this happen now, because without the mech on Execration, it's a slight advantage for Kingdom if a team fight does happen.
Yeah, definitely. The thing, though, to keep in mind is that this was your safe lane Razor getting a mechanism, and Bounty Hunter almost there also. Like, the fact that he is this farmed right now is pretty terrifying, and you take a look at the other supports here out of the side of Kingdom, and while Dazzle has been able to get a decent amount, he really is not all that farmed. The fact that you're going to be able to get a mechanism up on your Bounty Hunter at around, I mean, if they end up getting another team fight here before 17 minutes, I would imagine, and as they end up taking on out the top tower and trade this off, they have a pretty substantial advantage here, I think, and I really, really like what Execration have been able to do so far, and I think that they can probably start team fighting together now that you end up having the big call down from Gyrocopter. Maybe they wait till he gets level 11 to get the damage boost from it, but in either case, you have Winter Wyvern Curse. It's just all looking good for them.
It really is as well. So both teams are going to have Execration pushing up top, whereas it looks like there is going to be a small defense by Kingdom. They've already got Crash Bandicoot. Did they really want to hook in plus TP? They're going to bring in one hero. It's going to be the Razor. They're going to jump forward, and Ponyo goes straight onto Nando, who is a little bit aggressive in his position. Gets 4 staff out. Cooldown's going to be there. Only will connect onto one, as we do have the snowball coming through. Laguna to hell, and now Lumic has to get out of that Winter's Curse. Going to connect onto Ponyo, but the damage, it isn't quite there, but they are going to try and slowly chip away at these heroes. We have the Bounty on the sideline, just throwing out track after track. Lumic TPing out, but the punches that cancels the TP. And now the Dust as well, and now we have Double R, who is going to be going down very shortly. Unless the charge comes through, we'll connect only onto one. They really want the kill, but the snowball save, it's going to keep the Razor. Now BYB gets punished. Then there is going to be a power shot as well from the Wind Ranger. Shanks does not want to go in there as his team. It melts. They will not lose the bounty, but if you get too close, is there dust? There's no dust, so he's fine.
Oh, God. That is such a weird team fight. Like, it felt to me like there was a bit of a failure in communication between Execration there in terms of what they wanted to accomplish, because Gyrocopter ran forward, everybody else ran back. And you needed to be able to have either a Winter's Curse come out to draw the fire away from the Gyrocopter, or you needed to be able to have a Cold Embrace to keep him alive. And what ended up happening was neither. So it's just kind of like, what's the point that you're waiting for? Is we do end up having Shanks here jump forward on a Ponyo, going to be able to steal away the damage, needs to break the tether, but it is taking a little while. Looking for the shackle shot, is going to be able to toss out the power shot in return, but right now you have 3 damage you're hitting for a piece. You are a kitten. Get away from him, he ends up saying, and going to leave it alone for now.
Life is hard when you're up against a Razor. If you can't break the tether, you just... You have to run. Oh, Shanxo won't get caught as he has a 4-staff out, so
Bottom tower
shards
is
won't
under
quite be
attack.
there. In the mid lane, though, we have Kingdom pushing. And Execration, they want to go for some sort of a defense here. Are they prepared to do this, though? There's no curse for 12 seconds, so there is a small window of opportunity for Kingdom to potentially burst some heroes down without punishment. But I think it's going to be curse off cooldown now, so 5 versus 5, who'll come out on top? We'll have to see.
I think with the mechanism now being up on the bounty hunter, I think that they're in a pretty good position. Shackle doesn't end up latching. That would have been their opportunity to go forward. They have a pretty good sort of advantage in terms of vision also. 4 heroes currently tracked up. This is pretty wonderful in terms of just about everything that you could want. Did we have a buckler on somebody else? What was that ended up popping up? Because he didn't pop mechanism for that. Oh, it was just the medallion. Sorry, I was confused for a second. I was like, did somebody build a second buckler? Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
There's nothing wrong with a second buckler if you just want the extra armor. It's pretty
Yeah.
cheap. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I kind
Don't
of like
diss
though.
the buckler.
I kind of like though that I think we're seeing more and more often the like advantage that you end up getting by all this armor on Kingdom side. You have a medallion up on the Dazzle, you've got Weave that's going to be able to get tossed out, you've got the mechanism up, and a lot of the damage that comes out from Execration in the later stages is going to be physical. You've got the Winter Wyvern and the Gyrocopter that's going to be doing a lot to everybody, and if you're able to get any type of damage reduction coming out from the Razor, I do kind of like Kingdom's chances in that. Of course, the big problem is going to be, are they going to be in too much of a hole from the track kills? And so far, it hasn't ended up being the case, as we do have a relatively even game, despite the fact there's been all those track kills in the mid game.
They're hanging in quite nicely, best way to put it. Kingdom are hanging in regardless of whether there's track kills or not. They're doing well for the gold deficit, and I think for Execration, they've got to be a little bit worried about this. They need to win a couple more team fights, get more track kills, and get further ahead before they feel 100% comfortable, because their draft is still a little weak at this moment. They don't have all their major items as of yet. You typically want to finish up the Ags plus a blink on Shanks. He's got the poor man's blink with the 4-staff, but it's not quite enough. Once that actually comes online for Wind Ranger, Shanks is going to be quite a potent force himself. He will still have to steer clear away from that Razor. I think Razor is going to be the main factor in potentially shutting down the Wind Ranger.
Yeah, definitely. I actually do feel like the Force Staff, I mean, obviously it's the right move because it's against a Clockwork, but it also gives you the extra damage. So it's not an item that you always want to pick up on Wind Ranger, but it's not as terrible of an item as, like, you know, some of the other heroes that sometimes have to pick up Force Staffs and don't want to. If you think about a Slardar, well, it's great to be able to get that extra little bit of initiation. You sort of are lost in terms of the amount of damage that you get out from it. So it's not great, but it's not terrible, I think, is the probably best way to look at it. And it's going to mean that she can probably get away with picking up not needing another damage item, at least for the moment, after getting the Aghanims.
Yeah. So now with that said and done, we've almost got the Ags done, as you said, on Shanks. We have the makings of a Yasha on Nando. So he's just going to go for some cheap, cost-efficient damage here for now on the Gyro. He's got a BKB up now. It's a 10-second duration BKB as well. Does Execration... Would you think Execration will be looking to fight with this BKB? Or is it going to be more of just a defensive item so that Gyro can farm a bit more? Because normally the way we see it, you buy BKB because you want to fight, because you want the magic immunity, not just because you want to TP out and pop BKBs to make sure you don't die. That's probably the worst way to really use that BKB. You're not using it to its full effectiveness. Do they fight, or are they actually waiting for something? Are there core items that they're needing?
I don't think that they want to fight, but I think that if they don't get the BKB on Gyrocopter, then if you are forced into a position to fight, like having a Clockwork jump on top of you, like, you are going to just lose the engagement. So I think that it makes a lot of sense to pick this up, but I think that they would love to get out of the next 5 minutes without having to pop more than 1 or 2 charges. And if they can make that happen, I think that they're going to be coming out ahead. Because the other thing is that it's not really a great item to be able to escape away from a gank, because you have Clockwork Hookshot to be able to break it, as well as Snowball from Tusk, which is always going to be there. We do end up getting the Laguna Blade coming out in just a second on top of the Snowball. That's going to be a kill on the Spirit Breaker. And he probably should have known that was happening. Nobody was shown on the map, and he was pretty deep there.
Quite a bit of gold as well going in the way of the Tusk. 518 by himself. And then you get the gold going in Lena's pockets as well. That's a lot of gold just for a Spirit Breaker. Just goes to show how much gold he has.
Definitely. 3 stack here on the Ancients. Yeah, so I think that they would really love to be able to get out of this without having to pop BKB charges, but it sort of gives them that insurance that if there is a fight to be had, they can take it and they can defend, and it's not going to be the end of the world. Because right now, you can kind of keep the rest of the enemy team at bay with just the Splinter Blast from the Winter Wyvern. You're going to be able to continually span that out. 7-second cooldown, and it also one-shots range creeps at this point in time in the game. So you can defend, and if they really try and commit, now you can also defend with, 5 heroes here, and it's hard to push into high ground like that.
So aside from that, are we seeing any other major items being picked up? Got Ponyu that's just picked up actually here another strike. They're going to try and jump onto Yomi Kompaku, who's pretty tanky for a Tusk. He's got no snowball. Going to try and target someone. He finally gets it. Going to be jumping onto the bounty, it seems. Can he get a solo kill? Can he get it? He does finish off the bounty. They also get the Spirit Breaker. Execration, not enough damage to kill off the Tusk. If they had that, they should have been able to get that and got out easily, but it's just too tanky. 1.1k HP is too much right now, it seems.
Well, and to be trying to fight that deep in there near a tier 2 tower just seems like they're kind of leaving up now for this tower to go down. A little bit unfortunate now. We'll see how this ends up going. Power Shot comes out, also a weave on top of several heroes for a little bit of vision. They're going to be able to see Shanks now. This could be devastating. Cogs are going to catch on a Crash Bandicoot, able to force staff out of there. Thankfully, not going to go down, but the Gyrocopter's in the middle of anyway, getting the strength stolen and the damage as well. It looks like Ponyo is going to end up surviving throughout it, and now they don't have that extra bonus damage that's coming out. He's hitting for 20 a pop. Snowball keeping him alive a little bit longer, going to be off to the side, and Ponyo gets out. Really well played there. Power Shot not going to connect, dodging away from it. Looks like the Splinter Blast is going to come, but it's not going to be enough. Shanks does have another Power Shot in 1 second. Walrus Punch down, looking for the opportunity to kill him. They do still have vision on this. Can they get the Power Shot? Does have the wand charges as well. Gonna go for it in just a second. Light Striker are gonna connect. Another Shackle Shot hits onto that tree. Exceptional play here by Shanks to get this one, and I think that they do finally finish him off. Looking for a little bit more. She has the opportunity to make it happen. Is the Lina actually gonna go down though? It looks like the track charge, that's going to be enough for the kill, and unfortunately Razor is a bit too deep for them to find that kill on him.
I think in a situation where there was no bounty hunter track, I think Lina may have been able to get out of there, but because of the 100% vision, it's just, he was essentially delaying the inevitable. So for Kingdom, they lose a lot of heroes, whereas for Execration, they have so much to gain from this, and not just hero kills, but they get a Roche as well. 24 minutes in with no contest. We're very happy with this. Who is it going to go on to though? It's going to go on to Shanks. So I like this. Gyro already has his BKB, so give it to Shanks, who's going to be in the front lines to go completely balls deep with his damage.
Absolutely. And I'll also mention here, the other sort of unsung hero of that track is the fact that you get the bonus movement speed. It's going to allow you to be able to keep up with those heroes and chase way further than you would be able to normally. So really, really nicely done. Across the board, I feel like Execration here has been able to really sort of show their stuff, and it's now looking like almost they're in a position where it's their game to lose. They're up by about 4,000 net worth in terms of experience. It's shooting up that mark as well. And Gyrocopter, he's got the Sanjin Yasha, the BKB. He's really going to start hitting harder, and they're going to need to steal that damage, but also have an initiation where they can burst him down at the beginning. I think that Lina has to go Aghanims here, and she is going to be going for it.
She needs it. They really need the damage output. They need the burst, because if they can 100-0 a hero in a team fight, then that's already going to turn Execration into a 4v5 scenario, which is going to be obviously something that they really don't have to worry that they really have to worry about. You can effectively take out the bounty hunter in the fight. Just nuke him once, Laguna Blade, and that's it. No bounty hunter, no track, and that's a very important asset for Execration, because the vision is key. They need that vision because that's how they chase down the targets. And poor Fruitme Shackle does not actually connect, but he'll be multi, unfortunately, to Shanks. And Witch just connects onto 3 heroes. They get 1 hero already in the Tusk. And now Crash Bandicoot going to be cogging in quite a few heroes, but looks like this is a really nice cogs as it keeps him away. But now BYB, I don't think he wanted to be there. He loses his life. It's a 2-for-1 trade there, and they're going to continue on. It's quite deep if they go there, and it seems that they're going to back up. Happy with their 2-for-1 trade. That cogs there, I think that essentially saved most of Kingdom's life. If they didn't have that cogs, then Execration would have definitely gotten more than that.
Absolutely. The other key component here again is that you saw Gyrocopter getting all of his damage sucked away. He was down to 0 by the end of that engagement. So it's again another one of those situations where they were able to do it, but the key difference in this fight that ended up going the way of Execration again was the fact that Windranger picked up the Chrysalis right before that engagement. So you now have the Force Staff, which gives you the extra bonus damage. You've also got the crit that comes out. And this is really the power of this hero that we've been seeing, that sort of transitioned a little bit. If you thought about the way that the sort of Slasher's way Windranger was supposed to be built all of the time was to go a quick either Daedalus or Chrysalis after you end up picking up your Aghanim Scepter. And what people have had to do more and more frequently is go back for the BKB first. And this sort of massive damage really quickly is sort of the idea of really the dream of what you wanted out of the hero. Because if you have to go for the BKB first, all of a sudden your late game damage isn't quite as effective because it's not there when the heroes are weakest. So I really like going for this. It again is going to rely upon great positioning by the Windranger. And if she ends up getting caught out at any given point in terms of an engagement and sort of a Laguna Blade comes out on top of her, that's going to be a problem. And I think that that's really needs to be the new key for Kingdom here, is to take her out of the fight either through a Laguna Blade or something coming out from Tusk.
So now Kingdom, they've got a gem picked up on the Honky here, so they're going to try and go for as many D-wards as possible. And again, limiting the vision here for Execration means that they can't just go for these aggressive plays whenever they want. So they need to find out where this ward is, and they also have to spot out this one. This one is not actually very helpful, the bottom one, as no one is really heading down towards that bottom lane. So if they can get rid of that Observer ward in the top section, and I think Execration not going to be too happy about this. They do spot Lee Honky. He will start taking out the ward. They aren't going to go for any sort of surprise jump onto the Lina, it seems, as they're in position and they want to jump onto somebody as soon as possible. Let's see who the target is here for BYB. Who's thinking about it?
Right there, you saw the Tusk try and focus the Gyrocopter. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily the play. I really don't think that they need to. They're not going to be able to kill him off before he gets off the call down and the rocket barrage, especially the call down. If they can start static linking him at the beginning and then use the Laguna Blade and Tusk's combos to take on out the Windranger, I think that's the way to win the fight. But they need so many things to go correctly right now. Maybe if they can find a pickoff, that's the other thing. But it just seems to me like this is a very, very, very scary point right now for Kingdom. And if they don't make everything work perfectly in coordination, they're going to lose the game.
I think the biggest thing here is if Kingdom can actually bait out the BKB from the Gyrocopter, then that's when he becomes a primary target. And sometimes I've seen games where Gyrocopters get a little bit antsy with the BKB, and if they just get caught in an Ice Shards, they pop the BKB. So I think that's maybe what Yomu is trying to aim for, making the Gyrocopter think that he's under serious threat and he has to pop the BKB prematurely. But again, it's going to depend on how these players are feeling, and looks like they're going to go straight on the Bounty Hunter. They had 100% vision on him. He will force staff out though, so Bandicoot is actually stuck in the Cogs Fruits in the meantime, being jumped on straight by Nando, having to pop the Shallow Grave to keep himself alive, whereas the Shackle Shot's there for Ponyo. They're going to get rid of the Razor, as well as the Clockwork. Dazzle's dead as well. The rest of the team is going to be retreating, as Kingdom, who are the initiators, ended up being picked off.
Oh god, that was just about as bad as it could have gone. 4,000 gold swing off of 3 track kills, 3,600 experience. What you saw there in that fight was the Clockwork jump on top of the Bounty Hunter, wasn't able to burst him down in time, and then the Windranger was able to get the perfect shackle onto the Razor, who was separated from the Gyrocopter, so he had full damage the whole engagement, and then the Windranger just picks off the Razor because there's nobody around to support him. It was just not perfectly done. We talked about the importance of Kingdom to have that perfect initiation, and it wasn't that time around. We'll take a look at team net worth right now, but it's shooting up there towards the 12k net worth mark. Experience, we're about the same, and everything is just looking to go Execration's way. They are in a very, very comfortable spot. MKB almost finished on the gyro.
So for Execration, are they just going to be waiting for the next Roshan timeout? It seems like they're taking objectives slowly and they're kind of taking their time. And there's nothing really wrong with this, as their draft is prepared to scale into the late game, whereas for Kingdom, they are really starting to fall off. And I think the issue with their draft is they have heroes that need items if you really want to scale into a super late game scenario. So they need more items onto Razor. They need the Lina to really have her items. She's only got a Laguna Blade. Sorry, she's not a Laguna Blade. She's already got the Aghanim Scepter, but she needs more on top of this to really be that threat. Because outside of the Laguna Blade, Lee Honky's not actually doing that much damage.
No, definitely not. Sometimes you end up seeing a Shadow Blade picked up on Alina to be able to move around the map and be able to sort of get the initiation that you want there outside of just a clockwork hook. And I think that that probably isn't going to be useful this game either, because you've got, you know, the Bounty Hunter that's going to be able to track you up and great vision all across the map. The other item that you'll occasionally see is a Blink Dagger, but that's going to leave you a little bit weak there, as you end up seeing the Bounty Hunter slightly caught out there. Not exactly sure what that was all about, but it does look like he is going to end up going down as Clockwork gets the last hit. A little bit greedy there with the track onto Poinio, and unfortunately that's going to be just a quick little feed. 1,200 gold swing, not bad for a quick kill on a bounty.
Very surprised he did decide to go for a play like that, because if you know that you have this much gold, you're going to give quite away regardless of whether you're a bounty hunter or not. So very interesting. Maybe he thought that he wasn't going to be caught out in the fog of war. Who knows? Decisions.
Absolutely. So BKB going to be finished on Spirit Breaker. We are also going to be seeing on the Wind Ranger the fully completed data list does have the Force Staff and the Aghanim Scepter. For the Gyrocopter, MKB, BKB, and that Sanjin Yasha, just trying to get as tanky and as much damage as possible. This is going to be pretty nice because it's going to take that much longer for Razor to suck up all of his damage, and he's still going to be able to do a good amount of it. And I think that they're in a really great spot. One of the earlier fights, something that we also saw, was Razor being brought inside of the Snowball with Tusk, and everybody just standing around him while the Eye of the Storm was going. That was a nice combo. It's going to be able to sort of do damage passively while the team fight is breaking out all around you, and I'd love to see more things like that out of the side of Kingdom, being able to make the draft synergize together, because it really is fairly synergistic if all of the pieces work together in harmony. We just haven't really seen that come to pass as of yet, except for that first team fight that happened up near their tier 2 tower on the top lane. So I just feel like they need a little bit more a team fight that goes the way it went in the early stages, and I think they have the pieces to make that happen. It just requires good communication.
Not just communication, but I think it's also positioning. If everyone's in the right position, then at least they're going to be able to do what they have to do at a relatively decent timing. But for the moment, Kingdom, easy T2 town. Looks like they're going to go straight onto the T3s, it seems. They're feeling very confident, and look at everyone on Kingdom. They're going to completely back up. They need to make a defense. They're not prepared to do anything else. In the mid lane, they're going to go straight for a charge onto Crash Bandicoot. There's going to be no Clockwork in that top lane, but it looks like no commitment for Execration. They get the kill onto Clockwork. Actually, is almost dead. Gets shot to hell by Wind Ranger, actually. Nice Chaos Shanks. Kill secured.
Absolutely. Ends up shackling creeps. He's a very comfortable Wind Ranger right now, and I think that this is probably going to be that moment where at least they think about going on up there, but can take on out Roshan pretty soon. This is a very, very quick data list, as we end up seeing here, and not a bad one at all. 2,100 on top of it. This is going to be able to have, I'm getting bashed by Roche, but going to be able to have Aegis probably on top of this. Do you think that you give it to her, or maybe a Gyrocopter? What are your thoughts there?
Gyro still has the BKB, so honestly, if you really want to, just give it back to Shanks, because he doesn't have that defensive item outside of just a Force Staff. And it looks like, yeah, Shanks is going to take it again, so he can go completely ham, whereas Fernando, you're just still going to fall back to his BKB, because it's still at 7 seconds. The duration on it is still decent. It's not long, but it's not short either.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, they're going to be pushing on out this mid lane, looking for their possibility to initiate or at least split push out as Razor moves on up to the top lane. They end up scouting him, but thankfully he's going to realize that something fishy is going on and ends up backing up to his own base as everybody else from the side of Radiant move on up towards this top lane. Rocket Flare is going to come out. They have decent high ground defense, it's worth noting. The Rocket Flare kind of keeps the split push consistently going. Lina can nuke out creep waves, as can the Razor. The big problem is that these heroes do end up leaving themselves a little bit vulnerable to the to sort of being picked off when they end up going out to nuke out a wave. So that's something that they're going to need to keep in mind. Halberd, this could be a game changer right now from the Razor.
And I think it's going to be purely on the Wind Ranger. There's no point putting it on the Gyrocopter, because once he's used Flat Cannon, he doesn't actually hit that hard, does he? It's just single target, short range, whereas the Wind Ranger with the Ags, you're going to have the consistent focus fire. So Kingdom, can they make this Halberd work? I think it depends. It really depends on how the fight happens. If Shanks is really close and really focusing someone down, the Halberd can really change the flow. And if the game goes quickly, actually in the mid lane, looks like they're going to try and jump onto Yomu Kompaku. This poor Tussa gets bashed yet again, and he gets taken down relatively quickly. BKB committed by the Spirit Breaker, and in the meantime, in the base, going to jump straight onto what seems to be Ponyo, who's going to survive as he was braved up, and all of a sudden Nando, going balls deep, is actually going to get a two-man shackle with Shanks. Beautiful play by the Wind Ranger. Going to get Honky as well, getting bashed up with the charge, finished off. And Ponyo's still alive, though. He managed to just get one quick snipe onto the Wind Ranger, and all of a sudden, Gomu Kapaku brought back. He's going to try and finish off these heroes. Shanks, in the meantime, the primary target, it seems, is they're going to ignore Lumik. They get Lumik. Can they chase Shanks, though? They need the catch. They need to kill the Wind Ranger. He is such a valuable hero right now, but it looks like he might be able to get out of here too mobile, too quick. And that that hook shot was not the hook shot of the year.
Yeah, he thought that he was going to juke on down to the bottom side. Ended up not being able to hit that one, unfortunately. They don't have the track vision, so 2 buybacks committed. And I still do think that the Radiant end up coming out in the advantage there. I mean, they didn't end up taking the tower, and they did burn through the Aegis, so the push is going to be a little bit slower. But it showed, at least at that point in time, that, you know what, we are in such a dominant position. We can kind of do whatever we want. 3,000, about 4,000 gold up on the Wind Ranger. I am imagining that BKB is probably going to be the next item. If she had BKB in that last fight, I think that you're able to burst on down the rest of those heroes, because a lot of the damage that she took was magical. Once you have BKB and Windrun, there's not really going to be anything there to stop you, and that is going to be picked up right now. Actually doesn't even leave enough for buyback. So feeling confident enough to really go for this one. This could be a moment for Kingdom. If they can find a pick off on her at the very beginning, isolate her with the Tusk and the Clockwork, then you have your possibility to kill. But it's gonna need to be off the back of a counter initiation before the whole team is grouped together. And this is probably their moment to make it happen. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do it though.
I think the biggest thing here is the Kingdom's going to have to cross their fingers and hope that Execration goes for a bit of a cocky play, overextension, and maybe that's where Kingdom gets that crucial kill. Just get that major kill on the hero that has no buyback. Actually, there's no buyback available on the side of Kingdom, so if they lose heroes, that's it. They've all got only one chance in this next team fight.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind, Spirit Breaker is building his way towards that Lotus Orb, closer and closer, and that is going to finish it off now. So they're going to be able to slow siege it down this time. Probably, I would imagine, they're going to stick the Gyrocopter out front. The last team fight, while they were in an okay position, not everybody was there, and they were too busy killing the Tusk down there in the bottom lane, or in the mid lane rather. So I think that if they just sort of toss the Gyrocopter out there, continue to keep them alive with the Winter Wyvern, I think that they're still in a pretty good position. But it looks like, at least at this point, they're going to be waiting for at least farming up another set of items, and maybe for the next Aegis potentially.
So now it seems that it's going to be a bit of a slow push here, it seems, and more or less a wait for Execration. Whereas for Kingdom, we have to look at Kingdom's position here. They're playing very, very defensively. They're trying to continuously counterplay Execration. Are they in any sort of position to try and go for an aggressive play, aggressive smoke, and maybe pick off some of the Execration heroes? Because they're somewhat together, but they're also somewhat apart. And it looks like we're going to go right onto BYB. So they have detection. BKB deployed, anything to cancel it, and they will be able to cancel TP. And that was a pretty quick kill on the Spirit Breaker. So Kingdom, they can be aggressive, especially if Execration is split. But here comes the high ground push in that top lane.
Yeah, cooldown's going to be committed. Tier 3 is down. They end up using the glyph, but it's actually after the tower's already down, so they're in kind of a weird position. Winter's Curse now onto Ponyo. He's going to be dropping pretty low. Shanks is caught in by the ice shards and is going to be able to force tap to the other side of it. Nicely done. Hookshot missing again. We have Nando in the middle of everybody. Bouncing around is going to be the Shuriken. It does look like Ponyo's going to be able to get out of there. They toss on out the the Light Strike Array. It's going to connect onto 2, but the barracks are already dead.
One Rax is gone. They're going to get a secondary Rax as well. LSA just connects onto creeps, not heroes, and now it seems that they push them away once the Rax is gone. Execration, they lose a Spirit Breaker in the bottom lane, but it was more or less just diversion as they get the Rax in that top lane. They're going to continue on chasing Nihonki. No mana for Laguna, but he has the Laguna off cooldown. They're going to continue on chasing Ponyo. Going to try and finish him off. They had vision of the bounty. Gemma's on the deck, and now Shank's going to turn with the BKB and try and man-fight everything, but everyone is here. Snowball to keep people alive. And Kingdom, can they get anything else? Oh, Limerick, he wants the gem, but it's going to be pushed off, and it looks like he might get caught out. He will get stunned up. And I think this is going to be the end of the Wyvern unless he flies through the tree land. They're going to see him with the weave, and Limerick is gone, more or less. Oh, they're going to delay it. Finally goes down. Dragons are hard to kill.
Absolutely. They did end up getting that gem there, unfortunately. So trading it back on over to the other side, that's going to be Lena having that one. And taking a look at the fight recap, it is a nice little win there for Kingdom. But yet again, after getting the pick off there in the bottom lane, they end up losing a Rax for it. Just overextension, it felt like there, that while you can get aggressive, yes, you have to push so far outside of your base that you're not going to be able to get tech in time to be able to defend against it. So looks like AC is going to be the next item for Gyrocopter, trying to counter out against all of the plus armor that you have on the side of Kingdom. And I really like this pickup. I think this is exactly what he needs to go for.
And Scythe of Ice on Alina coming up very shortly too. God, this is so important for Kingdom. They need any bit of lockdown to keep these Execration heroes in place. They just need the control at this point. They have decent damage, but it's just making sure that they can keep those heroes in place to finish them off, because this is where the BKBs have been so troublesome. With the BKBs, they can't do all their damage, they can't do all their control spells, and this is an issue for Kingdom. So for Execration, they're looking okay now, but I think at some point their BKBs might not become completely redundant, but it won't be as useful as they used to be, as they are now on relatively short timers, in particular for Gyro. Wind Ranger just bought her, so it's only down to 9 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this sort of harkens back to what we were talking about earlier, that Roshan is going to be so important in this game. You've got the fact that last time it ended up getting bursted through, and they were able to bring down the tower relatively low, and then I think it was maybe a little bit of a misplay by Kingdom to push on out there to try and be aggressive on that bottom lane, and now it looks like they're going to be able to sort of possibly get another Rosh here in a second or two. It is going to respawn in a minute and a half, and this to me is going to be one of the defining moments in the game. If we do end up seeing a quick Rosh by Execration, if they're able to take the team fight, if they're able to sort of get this cleanly and then push high ground, this to me seems like the way to win. And likewise, if Kingdom are able to take the team fight, if they're able to either pick off the Rosh carrier before he's able to get on up there and start taking down the barracks, I see them being able to have a path back into victory for themselves.
But I think the path is going to be more than just 1 or 2 Rosh fights. I think it's going to be a couple of extra team fights on top of that. But at least it's going to give them a chance to come back, right? I think that's the big thing. Just Kingdom needs a stepping stone back into this game.
Yeah.
Not like they're completely out of it now, it's just, it's quite difficult.
Definitely. And Bounty Hunter being a bit of a turd, always good to see that one as he continues to track on up heroes and make sure that he has eyes on him whenever, anywhere, anybody goes. So Roche going to respond pretty quickly. I don't think they necessarily need to go for a pickoff in this one. They did almost catch Ponyo, but at least for the second, it's going to be leaving him alone over there, and they're not going to quite know that this is going on as of yet. Let's take a look at some more things here as we end up seeing the Scythe of Ice picked on up. Net worth about 30,000. Experience is going to be hovering around that 25,000 mark. Key items that are up at this point, Sanj and Silver Edge, are going to be completed by the Spirit Breaker, and that's going to make all the difference in the world in terms of his ability to obviously break away that unstable current coming out from the Razor, and they were just in time for Roshan to get back in here. It's actually a pretty important skill. Like you talked about there, the ability to keep up with heroes and make sure that you're able to find the fight that you want to keep them in place. That is so much of what that unstable current gives you, is the fact to be able to keep up with heroes. And if they don't end up being able to have that on him, then you can just sort of kite away the rest of the side here from Kingdom.
But then again, don't forget that Lena also has the Fiery Soul. You can even use it on her, and you get rid of the movement speed and the attack speed.
Yeah.
And Lena, without the Fiery Soul, she's quite slow. She's very vulnerable. So depending on whether or not Execration wants to kill off the Lena on the Raider, it's completely up to them, but they both have passives that they both need. They're both movement speed passives, actually.
Yeah. Kind of a weird one.
So, yeah.
Well, looking like they're going to move on in here and feel comfortable starting to take this on down, as we do end up having the movement on out. They are smoked up, ready to fight this if they want to. The Weave has been committed now on top of 3. You need to be really careful at this point on Shanks. They're starting to take a lot of damage, and now Roshan ends up getting taken out. Cheese on the deck. They weren't quite able to be there quickly enough, and now Smoke in return. They're going to be ready to start pushing this one, and I feel like this could be the defining moment in this game here, how this next fight goes.
Yeah, Kingdom was actually a little bit hesitant in going into the Roche pit. They kind of went in, then they kind of went out, and Lee Honky was more or less just pointing out towards that top lane because it was pushed. So I think Kingdom, they just weren't confident enough, and instead they're going to try and find the mid lane as Nando. He's actually being kept up with the Echo Shell here. It's going to be able to reflect a lot of the spells, and there's the beautiful curse coming out from the Wyvern. Already one hero on the deck, one buyback as well, losing the Dazzle and the Razor very shortly. He's got the Shallow Grave up, but how much more can he actually find? Going to be picked up here by Nando. Gem is on the deck, then the Snowball's going to be there. They really want to focus down the Gyrocopter, but he has a Satanic that he can always use to regen back up to full. It really doesn't matter. Look at the buybacks coming out from Kingdom. They really want to try and contest this middle set of Raxes, but BYB comes in with a very small percentage of HP, blinking forward. Echo Shell already popped on the BYB as well. He'll be able to get out safely, whereas the rest of his team, are they going to focus down the Raxes? It seems so. They're not going to even bother with the heroes. Glyph has been popped after one Rax is gone. And I think with Execration, just go straight down bottom set of Raxes. 2 heroes are gone. Why not?
Oh my god. 8,000, roughly almost 9,000 gold swing. In terms of this, it's just looking terrible. 3 buybacks expended, still not able to defend any of their barracks, and this is surely going to be GG in just a second or two. At this point in time, Kingdom are just holding on for nothing. Ponyo is going to end up going down, and I think this is going to end up taking us to game 2 with Crash Bandicoot getting taken out, another gem on the deck. Just great play all around this point by the Execration, and a Diffusal Blade going to be picked up last. GG ends up getting called. Very, very well played there.
Absolutely, and I actually want to give props to Kingdom as well. They did a relatively good job during the early game. They hung around for quite a bit as well, but I think at this point, really seeing the difference between Execration and Kingdoms, not just their styles, but also the experience. As Execration being the much more, you could say, played team compared to Kingdom, who hasn't really participated in too many of those top-notch C tournaments. So congratulations to Execration for their first victory. Kingdom, they have a second chance in game 2. Can they actually come back? We'll have to see.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys very much for watching. It was an absolute pleasure casting for you all. We're going to be back in just a second for game 2, as we ended up saying there, for Execration up against Kingdom in the Beyond the Summit Southeast Asian Series. Thank you guys again. And again, I've been at Lyrical Dota, at Danny Lee Casts, as well as Corrupt Drop Bear on the stats. See you guys in a few. Stick around.